Uh, the speaker with us today is Miss uh, Jaya. Uh, I hope the ma'am is here.
Yes, yes, yes. You can introduce. You can start.
Yeah. So I would like to introduce Miss Jaya. She is one of the most powerful speaker on Vedanta. You know, there are a few of them, but uh, one of the very few powerful speakers on Vedanta. No, the oldest management school we can say, that's Vedanta, isn't it? So backed by her experience in corporate life and 40 years of research on Vedanta, isn't it a vast experience? She motivates her audiences to live successful and happy lives. Clarity, wit, and zeal are the hallmarks of her presentations. The seminars for corporate executives deal with the development of the human being. She helps create that most valued of corporate assets, the fulfilled dynamic human being. That's what is needed, isn't it? Jaya ma'am has gained international recognition, having spoken at prestigious economic forums as the World Economic Forum Davos, World Bank, Young Presidents Organization, Princeton University, Purdue University, Washington University, and others. She has been invited by organizations like Apple, Google, and Intel in California, KPMG, the MasterCard, and Deutsche Bank in New York, Southern California, Edison in Los Angeles, Shell in London, Stockholm School of Economics, and many more. What more to say about ma'am? We are just going to listen to her, isn't it? Magnetized and hypnotized by the speech. I would also welcome Dr. Jagdish Naik, who is the founder of Swami Vivekananda Yoga Kendra. We had started this forum, yoga practices to the masses right from the lockdown beginning, and it has been going on for the 5th month now. And so I welcome Dr. Jagdish Naik on this platform, though he is there every day, and handing over to Dr. Jagdish Naik. Thank you, ma'am, and welcome you.
Thank you, Vijayaji, for this wonderful session of yoga and introducing us. I would wholeheartedly and bow down to Didi, Jaya Didi, for giving her so valuable time with us today and being with us today on the topic of lessons from Bhagavad Gita. Didi, we are very happy here and we welcome all the team of Swami Vivekananda Kendra, all the students from various institutes and the sadhakas and the participants here. And also a special thanks to Vaishali. I hope you are here, Vaishali. I cannot see you, but Vaishali Maksana, because of her, what has happened, we have got Didi, Jaya Didi with us today. We were always coordinating to each other about, Jaya Didi's time and when she's free and how we can, what topic we should go for. So thank you, Vaishali Didi also. And she'll be making some announcements in the end of the discourse. So once again, Didi, I bow down to you and welcome again. Hari Om.
Yo, thank you. Lessons from
Yes.
the Bhagavad Gita. Why must we study the Bhagavad Gita when it was written 5,000 years ago? We have so much to look forward to now, new technologies, now we are looking forward to artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. But the Bhagavad Gita is a science, and any science has eternal principles that are valid at all periods of time to all human beings. So the Bhagavad Gita is a collection of such laws. The very first thing that the Bhagavad Gita does is it removes the sorrow from our life, the pangs, the stress, the unnecessary suffering that we all go through is the first thing that is removed with the study of the Bhagavad Gita. And it helps develop an appetite for life. Just as in order to enjoy food, it is not enough that you have good food in front of you. It is very important that you have a healthy appetite for that food. If you have an upset stomach, the best of food laid out before you cannot benefit you. Similarly, in life, you look around, the world is a beautiful place for us to live in. Technology, science has made it even more enhanced. But the human beings around the world don't seem to have that appetite for life, that cheer, that enthusiasm, that excitement for life is missing. And that is the first thing that the Bhagavad Gita enables us to have, that appetite for life. Now, as against all other creatures, the human...
Didi, I think, Didi, you need to speak a bit loud, or there is volume, little bit of volume, if you can increase. Yes.
Is this better?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, compared to other species, the human being has been gifted with two extraordinary abilities. One is choice of action. Every moment we are offered a choice to be vegetarian or non-vegetarian, to be kind and gentle or to be nasty, to put in hard work or to lay, so on and so forth. From the time we wake up till the time we go to sleep, birth to death, we are making choices. And to enable us to make the right choice, we are also gifted with what we call as buddhi, intellect. So which brings us to our inner personality. Our inner personality consists of two outstanding, wonderful equipment. And that is the mind, manas, intellect, buddhi. These two are the driving forces in us. They drive us to activity. They are constantly motivating us in life. So let's take a look at them a little more in detail. The mind is the realm of feelings.
Yeah.
Emotions.
Just be on the waiting room. If somebody drops in, you automatically get in. Because 100 participants are there. Yeah. And meet them on Facebook also.
Okay. The mind is the realm of feelings,
Sorry.
emotions, likes and dislikes, loves and hates. It is impulse driven. It is the irrational aspect in us. The intellect or buddhi is the rational component in us. It is the seat of logic, analysis, reason, decision making. And between the two, they are our inner personality that drive us to activity. So the first thing that we learn, the first thing that the Bhagavad Gita teaches us is that before you do anything, before you speak, before you embark on life, you must consult your intellect. For the simple reason that what the mind likes to do may not be what is good for you. Take a simple example. You offer a sweet to a diabetic patient. What does the mind of the diabetic patient say? I like it, I love it, I want it. And the mind reaches out for it. But his own intellect tells him, don't touch it. because your sugar levels are very high and you're in a dangerous position. The doctors have told you to stay away from sugar, don't have it. So often there is conflict between the mind and intellect like this. When there is a conflict, which of the two must we follow? The intellect. You all say that here, but out there in our real life, because the intellect is either weak or not strong enough, you succumb to the demands of the mind, and the diabetic patient goes out and has the sweet. So there are two things that the Bhagavad Gita tells us. Number one, consult the intellect. And number two, strengthen it. Because often, even when the intellect is functioning, it's not strong enough to control the whims and fancies of the mind. And how do we strengthen the intellect? Exactly the same way that we strengthen the body. If you want to have a strong body, you have to exercise. Similarly, if you want to develop the intellect, you need to exercise that intellect, which means think, reason, question, inquire. And as you exercise, this must be done with independent thinking. Now, thinking has become a rare commodity nowadays. Very rarely do we think. And so, as we think, the intellect gets stronger and stronger. The second lesson that the Bhagavad Gita teaches us or talks about is contentment. There are two concepts that the Gita talks about. Samatvam yoga uchyate, equanimity of mind is yoga. And when the mind is calm, yoga karma sukaushalam, dexterity of action, excuse me, perfection in action is yoga. So we are not talking about a contentment in which there is no action. We are not talking about contentment that comes from inactivity. That is a tamasic state. We are talking about the next state is the rajasic state, is where there is action, you are active, but discontent is the motive. We are talking about the sattvic state, where the mind is calm, the thinking is sharp, clear, precise, and action brilliant. So, what makes the mind calm is what we must think about. When you ride on desire, the mind will be discontent. Because as long as the desire is not fulfilled, the mind will be agitated. Rise above desire, the mind will be content. What do we mean by rise above desire? Pick up a higher desire, a nobler desire, a desire that will benefit a larger cross-section of people. Then the mind is content. Think of yourself at any stage in life, anywhere that you are, the moment you think of yourself, you are discontent, agitated, disturbed. Think of others, your mind, it becomes calm. So, when you are in profiteering mode, the mind is discontent. When you are in offering mode, the mind is content. So, you need to shift, make that wonderful shift from thought of self to thought of others. When you think of grabbing from others, your mind is discontent. When you think of giving, your mind is content. Next lesson that the Bhagavad Gita talks about, which we don't often associate with the Bhagavad Gita, is excellence, success, perfection, prosperity. The first thing in terms of action that we need to do is identify your swadharma. Identify your core interest in life. Every one of us is born with a distinct passion, a definite interest, a talent. Like Virat Kohli was obviously born with a talent in cricket. Shiv Kumar Sharma ji was born with a passion for music. P.V. Sindhu was born with an interest in badminton. What is your passion? What is your talent? When you think about it, identify what we call as swadharma, swa, your own dharma, nature, your core interest, and invest your energies in that core interest. There are three types of actions that we can perform. Selfish, I don't need to explain that, we are all experts at it, where the overriding concern is I, me, myself. Unselfish action, where you look beyond yourself and identify with a larger goal, a higher ideal, work in a spirit of yajna that the Bhagavad Gita talks of. Right from the beginning, it introduces this concept of yajna in chapter 3 and goes on talking about it till chapter 18, till the end. So, yajna is the ability to set aside your personal interests and work in a spirit of service and sacrifice for a higher goal within the area of your swadharma. So let's say cricket or music or even business. Whatever be your swadharma, if you do it only for profit or personal interests, then it leads to mediocrity, because thought of self is the greatest obstacle that stands between you and success. It's only when you turn selfish, when your mind expands to identify with a larger goal, that you become successful. The greatest people in the world, whether it is an Einstein or a Newton or a Madame Curie, in any field of endeavor, were people who worked for a goal beyond themselves, unselfish. Don Bradman did not play cricket for money. Ustad Bismillah Khan did not play the Shehnai for money, for selfish ends. Mozart didn't compose music for personal profit. And then the third quality of action is selfless, which is what the Bhagavad Gita speaks of, where you are neither concerned with your selfish interest, nor are you working for anybody in the world. You are working in the world only to get to that state of realization, enlightenment, to become one with God. So there is a famous story of Emperor Akbar, who had in his court the musician Tansen. One day he told Tansen, you sing brilliantly, but I want to listen to your guru. Tansen said, my guru won't come to your court. Akbar was a humble king, so he said, doesn't matter, we will go to where he is. And they went to a small village, and as they approached a little temple there, they heard the most exquisite music emerge from that temple. And there was Tansen's guru, Swami Haridas, singing. No audience, he was singing to God. Akbar stood outside enthralled by the music. And when he went back to his court, he asked Tansen, you're brilliant, but your guru has a distinct edge over you. What's the difference? Tansen immediately replied, very simple, Maharaj. I sing for you, he sings for God. And this is the difference. Whatever you do, if you carry that thought that it is God that has enabled me to do what I'm doing, God has given me the talent that I have. and I will act in this field as my offering to God. Then that action becomes the highest quality of worship. That is a selfless action. So, in order to worship, you don't need to give up your vocations, your careers, your families, and go to a temple, ashram, or the Himalayas. You merely have to act with a worshipful attitude. And then you've got it. So, when you don't have a desire, there is no action. Desire is the precursor to action. When desire is driving you, there is flawed action. Transcend desire, there is perfect action. And the Bhagavad Gita goes on to giving the 6-point path to perfect action, the prescription for perfect action in the 3rd chapter, for which we don't have the time now to deal with it. But I would strongly recommend that you register for our weekly classes. They are free classes on the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to start on the 5th of September, and all you have to do is enroll for it. And as we go along, you will discover the sheer beauty and magnificence of this knowledge. Vedanta is the greatest wealth that we have been bequeathed. We, as Indians, it is our right. It belongs to us, every one of us. It is a tragedy that we don't know it, we don't know the value of it, and therefore we are not using it. So you will have this opportunity to access the knowledge, and then you need to absorb it into your system, integrate it into your life, and live it. And then you will experience the sheer power of unselfish and selfless action. The 4th lesson, next lesson that the Bhagavad Gita talks about is oneness. In fact, in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna gives details, the 35 qualities of a bhakta, he doesn't say one who loves me is a bhakta. He doesn't say one who loves God is a devotee. He says one who hates no being is dear to me. So what is the use of our God? There is no reciprocation. You must look at who is the person that God loves. The person whom God loves, the person who does not hate any being. And that is a very difficult qualification to abide by. No being, not just living being, just a human being, no living being. So let's take a look at benefits of oneness. See, modern life has magnified the boundary of the state of separateness. It encourages competition. It has this adrenaline flowing through you when you're saying, oh, I'll get him, I'll be one better than him, I'll demolish my competition. But that is a very Rajasic state, that's an immature state. The benefits of oneness are drudgery turns to revelry. When my generation, when we were kids, everything was made at home, including papad. But when papad or any difficult task had to be done, all the larger family, the ladies of the community would get together, and this difficult task of making papad would be completed in a spirit of fun, laughter, camaraderie, oneness. The fact that I still remember it. I was a child when these things were happening. And it was the highlight of our summer vacation because it was made in summer when the sun was hot. And everyone was included in that endeavor. And difficult tasks got done in an atmosphere of fun, laughter, cheer, and joy. Today, that oneness has gone. And so papad making has stopped. and we have to buy papad from the store. Oneness makes for success. When you feel for people, they return the courtesy. And everyone goes beyond the call of duty to do much more than their jobs specify. So the team becomes successful. You're happy. Modern life has programmed us to be happy only when good things happen to you. When good things happen to your neighbor, you buy a Mercedes, you're happy. If your neighbor buys a Mercedes, you are positively unhappy. But if you feel one with the neighbor, he has to earn the money to buy the Mercedes, he has to maintain it, he has to look after it, you enjoy it as if it were yours. This ability to celebrate other people's achievements as if they were yours is a fantastic ability that only, again, the human being has. Use it. And as you expand your circle of oneness, your happiness multiplies more and more. You feel one with the whole country, your happiness increases 1.3 billion times straight away. Because any Indian anywhere in the world does well, you celebrate it as if it were yours. And you grow into a towering personality. You become a leader. So, how does it work? When you identify with the body, there is maximum separateness. You can't feel one even with your family members. But the moment you identify with the mind, instantly you feel one with all the family members. And you see, even if you may be hungry, but if your child eats, you feel fulfilled. The mother may be illiterate, but when the child gets a degree, she is ecstatic. Go a step further, identify with the intellect. When you feel one with the country, then it's a wonderful feeling because you just have to think of another Indian and you feel that that surge of emotion come up in your mind. It's like when Hima Das won the Olympic gold and the national anthem was being played. There were people sitting here watching TV miles away who had tears of inspiration because they felt that our country has won. Someone from our country has won. Now you make that quantum leap forward. Identify with Atman in you, with the spirit in you. There is complete and total oneness, no separateness at all. This is something that we need to cultivate. This is something that is difficult in the beginning. You know how difficult it is to feel one with your mother-in-law. But the rewards are great. Next lesson, knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Not mastery of the Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads. Not command over the Vedas. But just plain and simple distinction between what is permanent and what is impermanent. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was an enlightened person. He had knowledge. He had knowledge of Atman. He may not have had knowledge of the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, but his judgment was spot on. Many of you may be knowing that when in the temple where he was a pujari, the trustees had ordered an idol of Lord Krishna to be installed in the temple. While it was being transported to the temple, the leg of the idol broke. So they all decided that they can't install that temple. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa asked the trustee, if your child's leg gets fractured, are you going to discard your child? And that changed her. So that idol is still there in the temple there. Yes, they ordered another idol and installed it inside, but this idol is outside. They did not do Visarjan of that idol. They kept it there because of Ramakrishna's vision. What a vision he had. And he taught Swami Vivekananda the essence of the Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. And Swami Vivekananda then went and roared this truth out to the whole world. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did not leave the precincts of the temple in which he lived all his life. But there is no place in the world that does not have a Ramakrishna mission. This is the power of the knowledge. Next lesson we learn now. When you practice these three, the three are excellence in action, feeling of oneness, and you gain knowledge, you reach the state of renunciation. What is renunciation? Renunciation is not giving up things that are valuable to you. Renunciation is not walking away from a relationship that is irritating. Renunciation is not giving up your career or your wealth. It is what chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita verse 1 defines it as. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha saha sannyasi. Who is a sannyasi? Not a person wearing ochre robes, not a person with a long beard, not a person who's walked away from his family and is living in an ashram, not someone who's meditating in the Himalayas, but just anashrita karma phala, without depending on the fruit of action. One who just does what he or she ought to do. Karyam karma. What is your karyam karma? Do it to the best of your ability without depending on the fruit. Saha sannyasi, that person is a sannyasi. Then he gives the disqualifications. Not one without agni means not a niragni, without a higher ideal, means not a selfish person. Nacha akriyaha, not an inactive person. So not a rajasic person, not a tamasic person, but a sattvic person who does what he or she ought to do. What a definition of renunciation. And then when you see, renunciation is the result. You can't practice renunciation. You practice karma, bhakti, and jnana yogas, and as a result, you get into the state of renunciation. So, renunciation, in short, is discarding the wrapper and eating the chocolate. It's peeling an orange, discarding the peel, and eating the orange. Removing the skin of a mango and eating the mango. So, renunciation is giving up or discarding that which comes in the way of your success. That which is an obstacle to your happiness. That which comes in the way of your growth. You give up that. Give up the clutter. Declutter your mind and soar to the heights of spiritual evolution. This is renunciation. And when you get renounced, you automatically become what is known as, you are in open-eyed meditation. You may be interacting with the world, you are performing your duties, you are doing whatever you need to do, but your thought is on the higher. It's like a great saint was told to look after a field when the farmer was away, had gone to another town. And instead of looking, while he was there, sincerely trying to take care of the field, he got into meditation. And the people who were against him, because he was not a Brahmin, the Brahmins were jealous of him. So they opened the gates and allowed the cattle to run all over, run riot in the fields. And the crop got destroyed. So when the farmer came back, he got mad with him. This is called open-eyed meditation. Now, this doesn't mean you destroy crops. But what happened later was that somehow the farmer got a bumper harvest, 10 times the harvest that he normally gets. And then he realized that this is that great saint's blessing to me. So he went and gave him the excess, whatever he normally gets from the crop, he kept to himself. The extra that he got, he went and gave it to the saint. So when you get into what is known as open-eyed meditation, you become an outstanding person. And then you meditate. Meditation is defined as the mind focusing on one thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts, under the supervision of the intellect. This definition, every word is important. So, the mind focuses on only one thought, that is concentrated concentration. We are unable to concentrate even here, the few minutes that we have to discuss lessons from the Bhagavad Gita. All of us are not able to concentrate here. So in between, the mind goes for a chakkar, gets distracted by something and comes back. After a few minutes, again the mind goes somewhere else and then comes back. There are some people where the mind goes and never comes back. But this is how we do it. And now concentration spans are getting shorter and shorter, which is an alarming thing. Why does your mind go? Where does your mind go? Your mind is unable to concentrate because of desire. So wherever you have a strong desire, that is where the mind goes. And it is desire that prevents you from concentration. So meditation is not meant for everybody. Meditation is a postgraduate exercise. Just as a child in kindergarten cannot do a PhD course. The child in kindergarten has to go through primary school, middle school, senior school, undergraduate, postgraduate. Then he qualifies for PhD. Similarly, a normal person has to plow through Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, bring down the desires, reduce the number of desires, improve the quality of desires, change the direction of desires from the world to the higher, get into a state of renunciation, and when you are left with very few desires, desire to get to realization, desire to serve the Guru who has bestowed you with all this knowledge, and do service to the world. Atmanaha mokshartham jagat hitaya. You work for the well-being of the world. These are the few desires that you are left with. You are not full of desire to buy a new car, to buy new clothes, get a new flat for yourself, or maybe a farmhouse, or go international travel every 6 months. You don't have all these desires. So when you have less desires and higher quality, superior quality of desires, the mind remains with you. It doesn't go helter-skelter. It's not rushing out into the world for objects of desire. Such a mind only is fit for meditation. And even after the preparation, when you meditate, the very nature of the mind is Asthira and Chanchala. Asthira is constantly flitting from place to place. It never stays in one place. This is the nature of the mind. And even if you fix it to one spot, it oscillates. So there are two kinds of movements. Movement from place to place and at a point. So such a mind is very difficult to control. Even when it is fully prepared for meditation, it will oscillate. It will get distracted. So there the intellect has to be very powerful and alert to bring back the mind the moment it thinks of one thought other than the point of focus. Pull back the mind. And often you are not able to meditate, so you have to stop meditation, go back to karma, bhakti, and jnana yogas. Go back to lower practices and prepare yourself for that height of meditation. Nowadays, with no preparation whatsoever, see, the tragedy is meditation per se is easy to teach, and initially it is easy to practice for the student. So people plunge into it. And third most important thing is you get an immediate relief, you feel good. But you have to go Shastra Vidhi, you have to go as per the advice of the Shastra, because they were masters at it. With an unprepared mind, if you meditate for long periods, you suffer. Ultimately, it does tremendous damage to the mind. So therefore, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, again and again, over and over again, whenever he makes a reference to meditation, he says, first control the senses, first control the mind, first develop the intellect, and only then enter the arena of meditation. The greater is your prep, the greater the preparation, the more successful you are in meditation. And then, when you are deep in meditation, stop the chant. When you stop the chant, the mind, which is a flow of thoughts, now does not have thought. In that silence, the mind is extinct because it is thoughts that make the mind. The intellect, which so far has been distinguishing between sound and silence. Like for instance, you are repeating Om, Om. Om is the sound. Between two ohms, there is the silence. So that's all the intellect is discriminating between. When you stop the chant, the intellect is stuck in the silence. There are no two things to distinguish. So the intellect goes, when the mind and intellect go, what remains is Atman. You get to the state of enlightenment or realization. It's like the river entering the ocean. And the second chapter of the Gita, verse 70, talks about this. And through this, he is giving the formula for happiness. The formula for happiness is happiness equals desires fulfilled divided by desires harbored. So, simple formula. Happiness equals number of desires you fulfill divided by the number of desires you harbor. So, if you go along with this formula for the time being, and you want to increase your happiness, what must you do? Either increase the numerator, which means either increase the number of desires you're fulfilling, or reduce the denominator. Reduce the number of desires you are entertaining. What are we all doing? Our focus is on the numerator. So you go out and fulfill desires. Every day you're fulfilling so many desires. Does your happiness increase? Not necessarily. Why? We don't think. Why is it that in spite of fulfilling so many desires, our happiness is not increasing? Because the denominator is increasing. See, you may go out shopping to a mall and fulfill 3 desires. But while you're in the process of fulfilling the 3 desires, you see something nice there. You see something attractive somewhere else. And like this, you acquire more desires. So every visit out, you may fulfill 3 desires, but 10 more desires are added. So what happens? Numerator goes up by 3, denominator goes up by 10, your happiness reduces. What the Bhagavad Gita says is, and it is mathematically true, and that is, the numerator is irrelevant, it doesn't matter. What matters is the denominator. If you leave the numerator as it is and just focus on the denominator, reduce the desires slowly, your happiness increases in leaps and bounds. And when you bring that denominator down to 0, what happens? You hit infinity. You get to infinite happiness, which can never be achieved as long as you are looking at the numerator. And that is the story of every human being. All of us, all over the world, are trying to increase happiness by increasing the numerator. And what kind of happiness are we looking for? Not just greater happiness, not just maximum happiness. We are looking for infinite happiness. You will never get that as long as you're looking at the numerator. So what you need is not more objects of desire. You need to look at the denominator. Now, when we say reduce desires, you're not enthusiastic about it. You're not excited about it because you think that the Bhagavad Gita says don't have objects of desire. No. Krishna himself in the 11th chapter tells Arjuna, go ahead and enjoy this vast kingdom. It is yours. And he's not just telling Arjuna, he's telling all of us. But don't desire it. In fact, desire stands in the way of your obtaining the object of desire. As long as you're obsessed with the thing, as long as you're craving for a particular object, you never get it. Look back into your life. When you were a child, you wanted a particular toy, you kept asking for it, you didn't get it. Then you got fed up and say, okay, chhod do. And you were gifted with it. So whether you're a child or an adult, you must see it happen in your own life. As long as you're running after a particular object, it runs away from you. Turn your back on it. Even if you pretend you don't want it, it works. So this pretending is what is important. Start with pretending. And when you see it works, you do it genuinely. So there is a story of President Bill Clinton, who visited India for the first time. And when he landed in Delhi, he suddenly realized that India was supposed to be a spiritual country. So he told his people, he told the Indians there that I want to meet a man of renunciation. Now the Prime Minister's office was in panic mode. Because where do you get men of renunciation anymore nowadays? And in Delhi, impossible. But there was a young officer there who said, don't worry, I'll fix it. They're fixers there. So the others told him, are you sure you know what you're doing? Because you're dealing with the President of the United States. He says, I'm very confident. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, you bring the President here. I will introduce him to a man of renunciation. So they accepted, they had no choice. This young officer walked out of his office and saw a young man loitering on the streets, called him and said, hey, you want a job? Are you jobless? He says, yes, sir, I'm looking for a job for the last 6 months. Okay, I'll give you a job. Tomorrow morning, you have to come here at 10 o'clock. You see that tree there? You have to sit under the tree and people will come and offer you things. You have to say no, thank you. And for just saying no, thank you, at maximum it will take 10-15 minutes. I will give you 10 lakhs in hard cash. Now the guy got suspicious. He said, sir, I don't want to do anything irregular and land up in prison. He says, what are you talking? I'm from the Prime Minister's office. Everything is above board. You just come and do what you have to. But don't get tempted, because if you say yes to anything that is offered, you will be exposed. You will neither get that nor will you get 10 lakhs. He says, I got it, sir. Don't worry. The next day, he came, he was sitting under that tree looking like a picture of Shankaracharya. So Bill Clinton came, he had done his homework, he knew what has to be taken to a man of renunciation. So there was a silver thali and fruits and this, that and the other. He went and offered it to him. Thank you, sir, but no thank you. Bill Clinton was impressed. So he took that back and gave him something much more. Every time he said no, what was offered was much more valuable. Eventually, he was so impressed, he said, let me give you $10 million to start an institute of renunciation. He said, sir, I'm already renounced. Why do I need to start an institute of renunciation? Thank you. Don't want. And the president was so impressed, he did a Sashtang Namaskar. He did Sashtang Namaskar. Everybody else had to do, including the officer who knew he was fake. So everything got over. The officer ran to his office, collected 10 lakhs in cash in one big packet, and went and gave it to the guy. The young man said, no, thank you. He says, it's over, man. Remember, that was the deal. For pretending to be renounced for 10 minutes, for pretending that you don't want, I was to give you 10 lakhs. Here it is, take it and go. Thank you, sir, but no thank you. So the officer got really irritated. He said, are you mad? The young man said, I'm not mad, sir, but you are blind. Did you not see what happened just now? For a few minutes, I pretended that I did not want. I pretended to be renounced. And I was offered $10 million. The President of the United States fell at my feet. Even you fell at my feet. What will I not get if I truly renounce? And this, friends, is what you need to think of. From all that we have discussed so far, if you just remember this, the happiness formula and that denominator. Now the question is, how do you give up desire? You can't give up desire by just saying, I give it up. Go back to your childhood. Every one of you was a great man or woman of renunciation, because as a child, you were captivated by toys and playthings, little things. And then one fine day, you were on your birthday, your parents gave you a bicycle. And the thrill of learning how to cycle and balance yourself on that bicycle was so great that the toys fell away. Then you became a teenager and you fell in love. Then what happened to all the cycle went, toys went, everything went. Like this, as you picked up a higher and higher interest, the lower dropped. This is renunciation. Renunciation is not giving up anything. It is taking up something higher. It is espousing something higher. It is expanding your vision to something higher. When a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, it just takes off. It leaves that leaf that it was nibbling on and the darkness that it lived in, and now has access to a much more fulfilling life. This is renunciation. So, friends, as the take-home points for today are, we spoke of the fact that the Bhagavad Gita the first thing that the Bhagavad Gita does is helps us to remove or rise above the unnecessary suffering, the pangs and the hurt that we all go through. All suffering is because of unintelligent identification and attachment in life. So it helps to free yourself from this. Then we looked at the importance of the intellect. The Gita continuously says, Buddhi nashat pranashyati. If your intellect goes, you're destroyed. And there is no program anywhere in the world, in any educational institution, no parents teach it, nobody teaches the importance of the intellect and how to develop that intellect. That is why it is so important to learn the Bhagavad Gita, which is the very means of development of the intellect. Then we looked at how to contentment, that samatvam, the calmness of the mind, is the precursor to success, happiness, and growth. Then we looked at how the Bhagavad Gita helps achieve excellence through action, karma yoga. The benefits of oneness, bhakti yoga, and what true jnana or knowledge is. Knowledge is just nitya, anitya, viveka, vicharam. Constant reflection on the distinction between what is permanent in life and what is impermanent. When you understand that the world and all that it has to offer is impermanent, you don't give it much value. You shift your attention to that which is permanent, or at least you seek the permanent. And then, when you follow karma, bhakti, and jnana yogas, you reach the state of renunciation, which is discarding of that which comes in the way of your success, happiness, and growth. It is like removing the wrapper and eating the chocolate. Just remember this example. And then when your mind is withdrawn enough from the world and you are left with very few desires, you give it a point of concentration, give your mind a point of concentration. It's called meditation, which we defined as, or which the Bhagavad Gita defines as, the mind repeating a thought, one thought, to the exclusion of all other thoughts, under the supervision of the intellect. And when you continue meditation for a while and stop the chant, the mind and intellect get extinct. What remains is Atman. You have become realized. Like Buddha said, somebody asked him, who are you? He just said, I am Buddha, means I am awake. What a statement. It means the rest of us are fast asleep. That is why the Kathopanishad says, Uttishta, get up. Jagrata, wake up. Prapya viran nibodhata. Don't rest until you get there. And then we took a look at what enlightenment means and the happiness formula, which is desires fulfilled divided by desires harbored. And remember, even if you pretend that you don't want a particular thing, it works. Remember President Clinton and the young man who was hired to just say no. Learn the art of saying no to the world, and wonderful things will start happening. Thank you very much for a patient listening. And now we have a few announcements to make. Vaishali will make one or two announcements. And then I believe we can keep the session open to questions. Vaishali?
Vaishali ji, yeah. Vaishali ji, thank you once again. You were not there in the early thing, because of a net. Yeah, hi. So thank you very much for your, you unmute your mic. Just a minute.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste.
We are happy to announce the weekly webinar on the Bhagavad Gita starting 5th September. Please join us every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Jayaji will begin with the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, which will be followed in subsequent classes by a verse-by-verse explanation, starting with chapter 1. You can post your questions or doubts, which will be answered by Jayaji in the last 10 minutes of each class. You will receive the link to register for the class shortly. For the entire Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapters, get the video and audio pen drives from our website, vedantavision.org. The pen drives have the Sanskrit recitation, English translation, and explanation by Jayaji. Follow the podcast, Gita for the Young and Restless, on Spotify. Listen to a new episode every Monday in Hindi and English. We look forward to having you all on 5th September at 6:30 p.m.
Yes, Didi, I have already sent the link in the group. So you
Thank
all have
you.
the group, or you can call me. I will resend it to you all. So it's already sent. So we all meet on the 5th of September, and that is at 5 p.m. on the first day.
6:30.
6:30. Sorry, 6:30. I'm extremely sorry. 6:30. Okay. So I've already put it on the group, so you all can go through it. Any doubts, anything, you can always ask me, or try to comment on our Facebook also. Account. And Didi, can we go for a question answer session? Just 2-3 questions. Yes. Yes. Once again, thank you, Vaishali Didi. Thank you so much for coordinating with us and making this successful. Yeah, anybody is having any questions can just, there is a reaction there. You can just put your hands up. So I will come to you one by one. Yes, please. Yeah, Raghavanji, please.
Yeah, good evening, madam. And we are blessed to have you and listen to your lecture. It was superb when Dr. Jagdish told me that you are coming. I was terribly excited. In fact, I was preparing myself to listen to you. Excellent points driven. And I am actually quite impressed on this clarity which you gave on mind and intellect. And that was what was actually bothering me in my learning of the spirituality. And what is this intellect doing? What is this mind doing? You gave an excellent example. And also the meditation part of it, what you said at some point of time, when the chanting stops and then there is a silence and the intellect probably also doesn't function to the normal function. And that is the state probably we are all experiencing that moments, whatever we are learning in the meditation, a sort of a peaceful stillness completely. We are experiencing that. And that is also very, very nice to hear that actually. And that is one of the points, we all probably as beginners are trying to strengthen that intellect. That's a thing what you nicely explained. And thank you very much. And we would love to have your lectures more and more and learn more and more from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please, quickly?
Just
Put
question.
your videos on, please. Put your videos on, and you can just put your hands up, or there's a reaction there. You can just put on the reaction. किसी कोई प्रश्न है तो पूछ सकते हैं. आपके वीडियोस ऑन कर लीजिए, हाथ ऊपर कर लीजिए, or we can end the session. Any questions, anybody? Okay. So Didi, once again, thank you so much for being with us, and hope to see you again. Yeah, I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much. Hari Om, and I sastang namaskar to you for this wonderful session. And we all should pretend the way what you said. The person who to the president was pretending that he has been renounced, and so wonderful thing, wonderful example. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Shubharatri. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, all of you.